Everything Old is New Again, America's entertainment pop culture talk show.
It may well possess a rudimentary intelligence.
I'm trying to think, but nothing happens.
Felt a great disturbance in the force.
Hello, I'm Mr. Red.
Come on, Mark, like a dog for me.
Where's the goodies? Leave the gun. Take the cannoli.
I bet you wouldn't have done anything like this if Mom and Dad were here.
You filthy criminal.
Excuse me while I whip this out.
Go ahead. Make my day.
Here are your hosts, Douglas Viviani and David Cohen.
Welcome to the bright new world of ABC. You'd never know they were cops unless you broke the law.
I mean, who are we supposed to trust?
Same people we always trust. Us.
Starsky. Hutch.
I'm Starsky. He's Hutch.
Welcome to a bright new world this fall on ABC.
I can't wait.
And I can't wait. This is Douglas Viviani on Everything Old is New Again, playing a little clip there of a promo from back in the 70s of Starsky and Hutch. And I'll tell you, David Cohen is missing a show here. Unfortunately, he can't make it today. But I have a very special guest host this week. David Soul appeared on, listen to this one, fans of Everything Old is New Again is going to get a kick of the fact that he was on, and we'll talk about it for a moment, Star Trek, All in the Family. He also started Here Come the Brides, the 1979 TV miniseries adaptation of Stephen King's Salem's Lot. Also, we have, of course, to take a look at him playing Hutch on the 1970s classic TV show Starsky and Hutch. However, he's not just known for that. He also is known for his love of music, as he started as a folk singer. So anyone who's heard the hit song Don't Give Up on Us from 78 knows all about his extraordinary musical talent. He's been creating, producing, singing music publicly from the 70s till present. He's released 5 albums, and now in one full big package release, if you will, called David Soul Gold. There's a 3-set CD that contains 45 songs, not to mention a vinyl version, a new version of Don't Give Up on Us, and also there's a vinyl track album there. We'll have to take a look at that. But surely, Everything Old is New Again with David Soul. I almost said David Cohen. David Soul. Thank you, David, for visiting with us. I appreciate your time.
That's a lot to carry on my shoulders, becoming a co-presenter with you, huh?
It is.
Cohen probably heard that I was going to be on the show and decided to take the day off. That's what I think.
It's coincidental because we had Paul Michael Glazer on as well, and he wasn't here for that either. But he claims that he loves Starsky and Hutch. I think he's holding out for Huggy Bear. I don't know.
Why did you try him? I'm sure he'll be there for Antonio.
There we go. Now listen, let's just talk about this for a little bit. I found something was so interesting. Merv Griffin in 66 and 67 had a person by the name of, quote, the Covered Man on the show, and that person sang music and introduced himself at some point as, my name is David Soul, and I want to be known for my music. So the question is, it's 54 years later. Do you think you've achieved that goal? I think you have, but where do you stand on that?
Well, that was a very, very interesting. It was not just a gimmick by any means. It was part of a dynamic of my life at that particular time. I'd gone through a very painful early, because I was married at 19, 20, and we had a child very early on. In fact, came out of the Midwest where there were no options. It was called a shotgun marriage, and
right.
There were no options for us, and nobody talked about sex. Nobody talked about anything that had to do with that subject, and so we were 2 scared kids who got married, and it just fell apart. Out of that, the idea of covering my face was a real feeling inside, because I was my father was a very reputable and very highly considered man in the community, and I was his son. And it's like you want to put a cover on your face to hide yourself from family and friends and people and so forth. And I don't know how that happened, but it sort of evolved into this idea that if I covered my face, nobody would recognize me, but the music could still come out.
Right.
So I said, my name is David Soul, and I want to be known for the music. With that, I set off a tape and a photograph of myself with this mask on to the William Morris Agency in New York. And 2 weeks later, I got contracts back in all fields. It was that wacky.
Wow, and you were the unknown comic, so to speak, before that even came about. That was a really original, great idea that seemed to gather a lot of steam, huh?
I anticipated the unknown comic. They copied me. Seriously. And I went to New York, and I never took that mask off for my agents, for Merv Griffin, for anybody. And every meeting that I had, I wouldn't speak except to say, my name is David Soul, and I want to be known for my music.
Wow.
Well, you can imagine it drove people absolutely crazy.
Yeah.
And I became sort of the target for people like Leonard Lyons, who was a columnist, and they called me Mayor Lindsay, trying to make it straight. No, trying to get into show business. I was Bob Dylan, trying to make it straight. I went in and played with some of the, great band called the Blues Project at the time. It was, with some of the great players that went on to play with a number of big groups, like Blood, Sweat, and Tears, and in fact, the bass player, Andy Kohlberg, became my musical director and played on most of the songs of the CDs that you are talking about. And finally, I went and opened up a club in the village at the Cafe A Go-Go and bombed miserably with the sound of wooden chairs scraping across a wooden floor. People got up to leave. And I figured that, I guess maybe they're telling me something. I better take that mask off. And so I did, and they said, put back the mask. Yeah. No, that was, and someone from Columbia Pictures saw me on Merv Griffin's show, still singing, now without the mask, and they said, if anybody could do something like that, they must be an actor.
Right.
So they called me in for an audition. I auditioned, and then off to Los Angeles.
Wow, that's an amazing story, something we really didn't know. And I want to tell you that for someone that was a fan of Starsky and Hutch when that came out, and then to hear in the middle of that run the following song, which I want to play for everybody for a few seconds of, and to hear that, I'm sure you've heard this a million times, no one at that time, not no one, but just casual fans, didn't necessarily know the talent that you had, and this went to number one. Give it 2 seconds, and we'll be right back and listen to this. Don't give up on it.
Don't give up on us, baby. Don't make the wrong seem right. The future isn't just one night. It's written in the moonlight, painted on the stars. We can't change ours. Don't give up on us, baby.
All right, so there it is. David Soul, tell us the genesis of this song. This is a gentleman, Tony McCullough from the Foundations, who wrote Build Me Up Buttercup, and he wrote Love Grows Where My Roseberry Goes for Edison Lighthouse. So this is a gentleman that has some gravitas and worked on this song and others with you. How did you get hooked up with him?
Well, I did an album in, as you pointed out, once Starsky and Hutch was on the air and a success, people started to sniff around because I kept singing. I would sing, and they figured, well, let's see what we can do with this. And they asked me if I wanted to do an album, and I said, yeah, of course. Music has always been my first love. So they set up a recording situation, an album up in San Francisco, and I went up and did this album. Played with people like Taj Mahal and Nicky Hopkins and Merle Saunders, and we used to go to the park on a Saturday afternoon. There was David Garcia, Grateful Dead, Jefferson Airplane. Everybody hung out together in those days. Anyway, I did this album. They played it. They didn't think they had a single. So the company was private stock. And Larry Utall, who was the president, called my attorney and said, listen, I've got this writer, Tony McCauley, and he's got a couple of tunes that he'd like to come over and play for David. So sure enough, he flew him over, and I finished a day's work on Starsky, and he played Don't Give Up on Us, Baby, and he played a song called Going In With My Eyes Open. And we decided to do Don't Give Up on Us. we did. That record was finished, done, finished, and out in 10 days. It was amazing how fast that turned around. I was put onto the album, and the album went platinum, and the single started off in the UK at went right up to number one, and then eventually became number one in the States as well. That was how it all happened. Following that, we had a song called Going In With My Eyes Open, and that ended up as number two, and then we had Silver Lady that went number one again. And, there was a whole stream of Tony McCauley songs that just took off.
A great combination of you and Tony, that's for sure. Worked out beautifully for all of that and more. And we're going to be back right after this and Everything Old is New again to continue talking music, Starsky and Hutch, Star Trek maybe. We'll be back right after this and Everything Old is New again.
We're still worth one more try. I know it.
You're listening to Everything Old is New Again, America's entertainment pop culture talk show with Douglas Viviani and David Cohen.
Hey, man, I'm telling you, it's a steal at $5,000.
$5,000 for what? Think I want to ride around in a blueberry on wheels? This is not a blueberry on wheels. I apologize for my partner's rudeness. This happens to be a piece of sculpture. Yeah, it's a piece of sculpture. It's a piece of...
Piece of what? What's the matter with you, man? You bad-mouthing my short.
Merle, now here's a car with some character to it. It's got some soul, some dignity, some inner flash. Lousy spark plug.
Speaking of soul, this is Everything Old is New again. We're back here with David Soul from Starsky and Hutch there, and we're having a great time, and we certainly appreciate you taking the time with us. That's a little bit of a clip, of course, from the show that, if we remember the show, it was, of course, cops and robbers, a lot of chases, a lot of violence. We'll talk about that a little bit, but also, during the years, it became a little more of a buddy situation, and there was some lighter moments. Was that planned, say, by the producers and the writers, or was that something that happened as a result of the developing chemistry between yourself and Paul Michael Glaser?
Well, the chemistry was there from the very beginning. I must say, I'd known Paul back in New York, and when he came into the room, I'd gotten the part first, but when he walked into the room to audition, along with, there were about 100 other people that I auditioned. I just did that film called Magnum Force, and Aaron Spelling, the producer of Starsky and Hutch, had seen that film and said, okay, that's my Hutch. And I said, no, I don't want to play Hutch. I'll play the other guy. I like the other guy. And he said, no, you won't. And I said, okay, I agree. And then I auditioned these people, and Paul walked in, and that chemistry was there from the very, very beginning. It just it developed. I think the idea for me, as far as I was concerned, we weren't two cops. We were two guys, two friends who happened to be cops. So that gave us a lot more latitude. Like the concern that we had as characters in there was more about justice than it was about the letter of the law. So we played both sides of the coin, so to speak, between what we understood from the street and what was official,
right.
What was what we had to do.
Right, and it worked beautifully. I'll tell you, the chemistry was great. Obviously, that's why the series was so successful and still remembered to this day. I'm going to show off a little bit because we have your buddy Paul Michael Glaser, a clip from when he was on our show, just real quickly about ad-libbing.
David and I never stuck to the written word.
Let's see that.
We had a good time with that.
Bottom line is he's saying that there was some ad-libbing, a lot of ad-libbing that went on with Starsky and Hutch. Maybe you can expand upon that a little bit. How did that work with a show that's scripted? I'm not so sure that the suit, so to speak, or the writers enjoyed that in the beginning, but certainly it sounds like they went with it because it was very successful.
Paul was the worst ad-libber I'd ever worked with.
How about that?
No, it wasn't just ad-libbing. I mean, there was serious improvisation, and that was what was fun.
Right.
A lot of these scripts that we did, were regurgitated. They'd been seen 100 times before.
Right.
In television, those were the days when you did 22, 23, 25 shows a year, and to turn out scripts for that many shows per season was pretty heavy duty. So what you did was you pull out an old script from way back when, and you kind of rejig it,
right,
and make it something that's would work for the guys. And we'd get the script, and most of that stuff was crap, and we'd end up having taking it, and because we did care about what happened, what went out. There's no question about it.
Right.
But we would take that and we would rejig it, rework it ourselves so that it became more representational of our relationship as opposed to the cold sort of, yes, yeah, just the facts, ma'am, thank you, ma'am, and that kind of thing.
Right.
And so there was a lot of improvisation in it. And, we got tired of doing it after a while, and it got tired. But we certainly did a lot of it. No question.
And that's important. Fans of Everything Old is New Again, listeners, I should say, certainly are aware of David Cohen and myself go back to high school. And so I understand that chemistry thing where it's like, you're not afraid to say something or take a chance with some ad lib or some comment because you know the other person's not going to take it personally. You're just doing it in character. You're trying to make it fun. And I think that really comes off as a, natural, as a nice, I would just say icing on the cake to these scripts. But another bit of icing on the cake, so to speak, is that David Soul, of course, has produced 5 albums. He's produced #1 singles. He's released David Soul Gold, a 3-CD set that contains 45 songs compiled from those 5 albums. A new recording of Don't Give Up on Us. It also contains 14-track vinyl albums, so truly everything old is new again here. David Soul Gold. You can get it at davidsoul.com. That's pretty easy, S-O-U-L, davidsoul.com. Let's listen to and refresh our memories a little bit of another great song that you produced, Silver Lady. We're back right at this here.
Come on, Silver Lady, take my word. I won't run out on you again. Believe me, I've seen the light. It's just one long night without you. Here I am a million miles from home. The Indiana wind and rain cut through me. I'm lost and alone, chilled to the bone. Silver Lady.
Tell you, that's one that is real catchy that you don't want to turn off, and I apologize having to own you play like 30 seconds, but if you want to hear more and own that, go to davidsoul.com or Amazon and pick up David Soul Gold. David, that also was by your buddy Tony McCullough, and did you collaborate with him? Did he just kind of hand you these songs? How did it work with your relationship with him?
Well, I didn't actually, he wrote the songs, he would present them, and I listened to them, and whether if I responded to them, then it was, then we do it. If I didn't like them particularly, we didn't do it. So that was and then once we were in the studio and started putting the songs together, because it was my band that was playing, so. And I knew my guys really well, so we did a lot of the arrangement, So we didn't do the strings. The strings were done by Mr. King. I can't remember his first name right now. King was his last name. Those were the days when you walk into Studio A and you got an orchestra sitting there of 60 people, and you walk in and say, "They're playing for me." Are you kidding? And the sound, that was the era of strings. And it was great. Getting the hair on the back of your neck stood up, walking in. It was beautiful.
So
it was great.
The interpretation, so to speak, for us that are not necessarily involved with music, but you'd hear the song, let's say, played on an acoustic or whatever, and then you then interpret that and add to it and add with which you feel is necessary, right?
The interpretation was collaborative. There's no question about that. But
And
the song, Tony.
And now there's a different song here on this project, which I think is terrific. Looking back at your career, and it's David Soul Gold, Jazzman, a totally different style, which really shows your versatility. Let's listen to that.
Black-eyed sweet thing, sugar Luke. Don't you try to change me, 'cause it ain't no you. Honey, I'm a jazz man, I got the Sunnyland blues. Just off the streets, trying a trick or two. Trick or two.
There we go, Jazz Man. If you want to lay back and have a cognac and just relax after a hard day, that's the perfect song for that. And there's others on this compilation that meet that requirements, if you will. But what made you change? Or let's put it this way: what style of music do you prefer? Pop, jazz, blues? Is there anything, or are you across the board that you're interested in?
I've never been a genre-oriented guy. I just like too much. I just like music, and I think that probably didn't work in my favor so much back in the day because I didn't want to get locked into a certain genre of music. I mean, I grew up as a folk singer, all right. So, and I started out in Mexico. I studied in Mexico and was given a guitar down there and taught the songs of Mexico. So, when I came back to the States and couldn't get a job, I went into a club and got a job because I could sing Mexican folk songs, and that started. I'm singing Mexican, and then I learned Russian songs. Then I learned some French songs, and then I learned. So I learned a lot of different kinds, from Woody Guthrie to my guitar et moi, my guitar and me, to Armenian, to you name it. And I take that same attitude all through my early days in recording. I didn't want to be known just as. And I think probably I didn't have the balls at the time to really stand up and say, listen, there's a lot of stuff here that I really want to do. So, but now when I put these 40, it's not 45, it's 44 songs actually. But when I put these things together, I purposely did a lot of different songs and a lot of different styles, a lot of different approaches, content-wise and also music-wise. There's a whole kind of mixture of ballads and jazz and blues and rock, and there's just a whole. It's a bouillabaisse of music.
It is something for everybody, I'll tell you. That's very true, and I really enjoyed it. I think it's well worthwhile. David Soul Gold. Either you go to Amazon or davidsoul.com. If you go to davidsoul.com, there's also some autographed books, autographed pictures, memorabilia, signed scripts. So feel free to go there as well for that purpose. But really, David Soul Gold is well worth it. We'll be back right after this on Everything Old is New Again.
Now, back to America's entertainment pop culture talk show. Everything Old is New Again, with Douglas Viviani and David Cohen.
The bluest skies you've ever seen in Seattle, and the hills the greenest green in Seattle.
Welcome back to Everything Old is New Again. That's a little piece of Bobby Sherman singing Seattle, which is a song that was the theme song to Here Come the Brides, and that was a show, of course, in 68 to 70 that starred, co-starred, if you will, our special guest, David Soul. David, you were born basically the same time as Bobby Sherman. Bobby Sherman was on this show for 2 years with you during the time that he had Little Women, a 1969 hit, and some others. I wonder, you had a lot in common with him. Were you sort of competitors, or were you collaborators? Were you friends? How did it work? Did he influence you in any way to motivate you maybe to do what you love?
No.
You didn't think so?
You had to go to the bottom of the barrel to pull that one out, didn't you?
Yes, I did.
Boy, that scared the hell out of me. We just listened to that one. No, Bobby did not do a hell of a lot for me at that time. He was a nice kid, likable guy, but he was a very, 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 very commercially oriented guy. He's a nice guy, but I really had nothing in common with him at all.
But the only thing that's true, except for the year of your birth, I guess. But other than that, the thing is that he was someone that was doing what you wanted to do, apparently, and you did just as, if not more successfully than he did later on. But it was sort of parallel. I just thought it was interesting you're on the same show together with the same sort of interest there. But that goes back to chemistry again. Like you had great chemistry with Paul Michael Glaser, maybe not so with Bobby Sherman. Let's put it that way.
No, I'll tell you, the business of the business has never been the most important thing for me.
Right.
The most important thing, I come from a background that is completely nobody in my entire family has ever been involved. I'm an accidental actor. It's basically what I am. I didn't plan on it, didn't want to do it. I wanted to play baseball, or I wanted to go out and work in political science or go into foreign service. That was my goal. That was my dream. And all of these things, they happened accidentally. And, even back then when I was doing Here Come the Brides with Bobby Sherman, there was no competition. I did, I sat around in my trailer with my guitar and I'd play my songs. And that was fine with me.
Right.
I didn't really care one way or the other. I didn't like the songs that Bobby did.
Right.
They're not my cup of tea. This was the same time as the Monkees got started about the same time, and the best thing about them was a train to Clarksville or something like. What was it called?
Last Train to Clarksville. Yeah.
And then Dream was the other one. The Dream.
Daydream Believer.
Daydream Believer. Right. Those were the best things that came out of them, I thought. And but they were manufactured.
Right.
I must say that they were both Bobby and Monkees were manufactured. They were they initiated the boy band phenomenon, and even the Spice Girls were put together. There were groups that have been manufactured and sort of put together as opposed to coming out of themselves, and putting themselves together, like people like Steely Dan or Doobie Brothers or the Eagles, all of whom I played with and knew about. We all, in the 70s, we all hung out at the Troubadour, and people get up, they try out new material, and, you bring in a couple of people and sit on stage, do a duet, and somebody else would stand up and do something else. And little by little, those people developed into the artists that we all love. In fact, my drummer, Jimmy Hodder, was the drummer for Reelin' in the Years. Remember that?
Sure.
From Steely Dan, the drummer. He was the early days drummer for Steely Dan. My guitarist played for Van Morrison, was on the road with him all the time. My piano player was the studio pianist for Blood, Sweat, and Tears. He goes on. Andy Kullberg, my musical director, came out of the Blues Project, and C-Train. Norton Buffalo played with the Roy Rogers Band. But we all kind of found each other, and nobody tried to manufacture us. That was my point, really.
Right. So totally original and organic. And as a result of that, Goodbye Gatsby comes out in 78, a great jazz-style song. Let's listen to a little bit of this that you can get on David Soul Gold from davidsoul.com.
Goodbye to roses and the smell of romance. Quaint little houses in the south of France. Touring cars and movie stars. Surviving heirs of Russian czars.
I really like that track, and there's some great piano in there as well. I don't know who was the pianist, but there's some great little solos in there.
That is my band. They played Don't Give Up on Us, Baby. They also played this. They also played Silver Lady. They do the rock and roll. They do it all.
Wow, that's amazing. So they were sort of like you, Renaissance in a way, or not. Bottom line is you play what you enjoy and do what you enjoy doing, and why be pigeonholed into one thing, which you're then going to be, sort of stuck with, is what you're trying to say. I enjoy that.
You got it in one, Doug. You got it in one.
There you go. Thank you. Speaking of something, let's have a kick here for a moment. You were on All in the Family at one point and played a character, Zabu, an artist. Let's just play a small clip here, refresh your memory, and ask you a question or two about this.
I see by that brochure there that you like painting people without their clothes on, in other words, in the nude.
No, not everybody. For instance, you, I'd never paint you in the nude. No, I mean, you wouldn't be you without your clothes on. What do you, Mrs. Bunker?
I don't know. I'll have to think about it.
I mean, you were hot at that time into...
Oh, I love that show.
Yeah,
I love Carol O'Connor was a dear, dear, dear friend, and I just love that Norman Lear show, and it just and Sally Struthers was a dear friend. Rob Reiner, and these guys are, they're great.
Yeah, it's amazing. Amazing that they're trying to recreate and, I don't know, would you say, reinvigorate the franchise, if you will, with these live performances, and they do the best they can, but they talk about chemistry. The chemistry on that set must have been, you tell me, but it must have been amazing, because they all really produced some classic work there, huh?
I mean, that goes right back to, there's no way people can, that's original stuff, that's really original stuff.
Exactly.
And everything else is like, pale sort of facsimile of what these guys created. And it's in the same way to some degree with Starsky and Hutch. We were the first of its kind.
Yes.
A buddy kind of show like that, and everybody, then it follows.
And you can see that in so many of the movies. The Rock has done a recent one, a buddy movie. I forget the name of it, and they all in some way have the same kind of. And I hate to use the word formula, because it wasn't a formula in your time, but their formula now is the action adventure, but also they're buddies and they have a joke here and there, or they don't get along like the Odd Couple, whatever. But I think I agree with you a lot in that way, that Starsky and Hutch was a foundation to these, because you were able to have that freedom or the power of your personality to say, we're going to ad lib and we're going to add our chemistry to this show, when I'm not so sure that at that time that was something the director would have said to you, oh yeah, go ahead and ad lib on this scene or improvise on this scene, but you did it anyway to a successful level, I guess. Does that make sense?
You're quite right about that. I mean, I think the key here, Douglas, is the word trust. Paul and I trusted each other implicitly. We fought from time to time. We disagreed from time to time. But it was always fair, because the goal was the same goal. We had the same goal. And we allowed each other the space to come up with ideas. And then we trusted each other. Nobody was trying to one-up the other one, ever. The better he was, the better I could be. And vice versa. The better I am, the better he could be. And we did that with our guest actors as well. We wanted the best actors we could get to do this, to do the parts, because the better they are, the better we can be. You understand what I'm saying?
Absolutely. Makes complete sense, and it really resulted in a terrific show that of course we remember 50 years later almost. And we're speaking with David Soul. David Soul Gold is the new release, 3 CDs of 44 songs. You're going to get involved with this and you're going to enjoy it, I'm telling you. Go to davidsoul.com or Amazon, but davidsoul.com. We could also get autographed books and pictures and memorabilia. It's a great opportunity to revisit the past, but also with an eye towards the future, because this music is timeless and is terrific music. We'll be back right after this, and everything old's new again.
Goodbye to champagne smuggled in from abroad. Romantic lovers.
This is Everything Old is New Again, America's entertainment pop culture talk show with Douglas Viviani and David Cohen.
We're with David Soul. David Soul Gold is 3-set CD with 44 songs from his 5 albums that you really will enjoy by going to davidsoul.com to pick that up. Anything that I've missed so far that you want to talk about?
One of the things that I'm most interested in doing right now is finishing up the restoration of Ernest Hemingway's 1955 Chrysler New Yorker Deluxe in Havana. And this has been a real story that started back. You see, us Americans have never been allowed to go to Cuba.
Right.
And when I was 15 years old, I read The Old Man and the Sea, and I think I always wanted to go to Cuba after that. And certainly Ernest Hemingway became one of my very favorite authors, as he is for so many Americans. Eventually, lo, these many years later, in 2004, I got my British citizenship. I have dual citizenship, U.S., U.K., and because I got a UK citizenship, I could take my passport and go to Cuba. And I did. And the first place that I wanted to go was Ernest Hemingway's home, in which he lived for 22 years, which is now a museum, the Hemingway Museum. He is revered in Cuba. He's a favorite son there because, he wrote Old Man and the Sea. The story continued after I first went to Ernest Hemingway's home, which is now, this museum, as I said. The director of the museum had just managed to get a hold of a dilapidated, broken down, crumbling Chrysler, 1955 Chrysler New Yorker Deluxe. It had been Ernest's car. It had been pulled out of a jungle, rotted, gone to pieces. And she wanted to restore it and put it on display at the museum, along with his famed boat, Pilar. And so she pulled me aside after I went out there and said, knowing that you're a British, UK, and US citizen, and we can't get car parts from the US, could you help us get the parts to fix the car, to restore the car, so we can, for display? I don't know anything about restoration of an automobile, but I love Ernest Hemingway, and I loved being there, and I loved being asked, and of course, I said yes. When I got back to London, where I'm living, I thought to myself, what am I going to do? I called a Practical Classics magazine. It's a classic car magazine. And then the idea came to me. I said, this could make it a great documentary from the very get-go. We'll do a documentary on this and tell the entire story behind this because of the problems that exist, the political problems that exist in the United States. And we started, and I put some of my own money into the initial stages of this film and got ourselves a film crew and started to tell this story right from the very beginning. Of trying to pull all the pieces together. We went to Washington, spoke to people there, to Senator Jeff Flake, and a couple of representatives about the problems that we were having about getting parts into Cuba and so forth. And I was chased around by the Department of Treasury and Office of Financial Assets Control, who threatened me with imprisonment and a $250,000 fine for trying to bring in parts. Finally, with the help of an attorney who had brought in these Buena Vista Social Club from Cuba into New York to Carnegie Hall, he was able to negotiate my right to bring in those parts based on historical preservation. Notwithstanding the fact that Ernest Hemingway is one of the most famous writers we have in the United States. Right. You know what I mean? And then I ended up dealing with the horrendous bureaucracy of Cuba. But all of this is on film now. We got all this stuff on, documented. We have 120 hours of film. We have car parts that are still sitting in Miami, waiting to be shipped over. And we have the administration, Mr. Trump, has decided to be even more draconian in his policies towards Cuba. Obama had begun to open it up, and now we're closing it down again. And so we're hoping, soon. We're still filming. But we got to finish the car in order to finish the film.
You sort of need the ending, right?
We've got to have a finished car, don't we?
Right.
Otherwise, what's the point?
Well, let's hope it happens quickly. Yeah, I'm sorry to interrupt. Yeah.
No, that's all right. This has been something that's consumed me now for the past 5-6 years now.
Right.
Up and down and in and out and no and yes and no again and yes and no, and it's been a bit of a frustration, but it's one of those things that you have to do. I think it's going to be a fascinating documentary.
Right. We're going to keep an eye out for that, and I'm sure you'll announce that in some way, shape, or form on davidsoul.com. I've seen some mention of this as well there. So
Douglas, it's called Cuban Soul.
Cuban Soul. There you go. Cuban Soul on davidsoul.com. Look for that. Also, look for information on getting the David Soul Gold release. One of the songs you'll hear is Tearing the Good Things Down. We'll talk about the meaning of that right after this.
'Cause this vision just gets stronger through adversity. Nothing on this earth will ever stop me. But we are tearing the good things down, throwing them all away. I used to love this town, not anymore, not today. We are sending the good guys out. Why aren't we making the bad ones pay?
There we go, David. That is a song on the release of David Soul Gold, 44 songs from the past 5 albums. David, certainly that has some meaning, that song. And do songs with meaning have more or less significance to you when you perform them?
Oh, absolutely. I think that harkens back to the fact that I am an actor. The lyric is probably more important to me than anything else. It's storytelling. Basically, a song is a story, isn't it?
Yes.
That's where, and this particular song, when I heard it, it is, it's a devastating song in a way, because it is, we've talked about a little bit before about, when an idea is initiated, when something starts out that's breaking the mold, so to speak, like All in the Family or like Starsky and Hutch. There is a kind of, I don't know what you call it, there's a lovely, a wonderful kind of small town feeling about it. It's like where you came from as a kid. It's where you grew up from. And there were certain values that you grew up with that were very, very important to you. And sometimes, as life goes on, it becomes more complex, more technical, whatever, it gets smashed down. And then you hear about all the corruption that's going on and stuff that's going on everywhere. How people try to do shortcuts and undermine civility and kindness and that kind of thing. And you say, oh, man, why are we tearing the good things down? Where are we? What are we trying to do here? And you know what? It's about maintaining. Yes, we're going to make changes and stuff, but keep the value system in place.
I agree with you 100%. One of the things that made me happy, a little segue here, because we don't have a lot of time, is a show that I loved, and I don't know what you're going to say about this. It was only on for 5 episodes, but I'm going to play a real quick clip of this one.
Sunday, if you love the movie, don't miss the hot new series Casablanca. The intrigue, the adventure, the romance. One word says it all, Casablanca.
I don't know if I'm stumbling into something that's good or bad remembrance for yourself, but I thought you were terrific in it, and I don't know why they didn't give this show a chance. You had Scatman Crothers, Ray Liotta, of course, and yourself, and others. Tell us a smidge about this experience.
That's a sad story. And I love that show. I absolutely loved it. David Wolper was the producer of that, who was one of the great documentarians in America, in American film. And David Wolper did this, and I remember we had a big production meeting with about 100 people there. I'll tell you what we did. We used the same sets from the old film, Casablanca, and the back lot was the same as that was used before, but they just cut it down to a third. And that Joe Byrock, one of the 80-year-old Joe Byrock, was a cinematographer, and he's the guy. He was the cinematographer, and his that wonderful old Casablanca type, the 1930s type lighting, lighting up through the ferns and so you get long shadows on the walls and stuff like that. It was fantastic. And Ray Liotta was in it. We had some wonderful thing. The guy from Pretty Woman, what's his name? Hector Elizondo.
Right.
And some top people. And I remember David Wolper standing up and saying, "If we go down in flames." Well, we did. And
it's tough. It's a tough thing to follow up on. Yeah.
It was panned because we tried to replicate, because people said we were trying to take the thunder away from the original film, and that was not the case.
And I would say that, I was going to say I agree with that, because it was a year or two before the movie, so it's setting up all of that. So if you actually spend some time to watch and understand that review is totally incorrect.
Absolutely.
And I apologize to cut off. We're just running short on time here, and we're having a great time and had a great time with David Soul. His new release is the 3D set, which contains 44 songs compiled of the 5 prior albums. There's a new recording of Don't Give Up on Us on this. It's a 14-track vinyl album is included therein. Surely everything old is new again. Thanks, David Soul. Go to davidsoul.com. That's davidsoul, SOUL.com, and get that and any memorabilia you like. David Soul, thank you very much for spending so much time with us here.
Thank you, and I'm so sorry that David couldn't be with us.
We'll get him back for that. Don't worry. I'll next time we'll have him on board. I appreciate it. Thanks again. Have a great day.
Thank you.
We'll be back this on Everything Old is New Again. Here with John Billingsley, and we're talking about the Hollywood Food Coalition. John, what is this?
Well, I'm the president of the board. We serve a hot, nutritious 5-course meal to hungry men, women, and children 7 nights a week, 365 days a year. Been doing it for 33 years. We distribute clothing and shoes and blankets and backpacks and you name it. And we help people access a huge array of other services from partner groups. And if you'd be interested in making a donation, hofoco.org, $3 buys a hungry person a great 5-course meal. HOFOCO.org.
You've been listening to Everything Old is New Again, America's pop culture entertainment talk show. Find us on the web at everythingoldisnewagain.biz. That's .biz.
See you next week. Same bat time, same bat station.